Hello and welcome to the IDEM's special programs on the Karnataka elections. I have with me somebody who has been very closely following Karnataka society, not just in terms of elections, but as a sociologist, looking into various aspects of society, how it has been developing, and somebody who's been a very close friend of one of the legendary journalists of our time, Gauri Lankesh. They go back a long way. Chandan Gowda, welcome to the IDEM.
Thank you.
Of course, your book on Gauri and of course whatever you've written about Gauri is all very dear to us journalists.
Thank you.
Yeah. We will talk about the book later.
Yeah.
But immediately I would like to look at, we come to cover the elections here.
Yes.
How do you look at this away, just about a few days away from the elections, in the last days of campaigning? What is your sense of the elections now?
My sense is the election trends haven't really changed much since the polling, since the candidates list were announced. The Congress continues to seem like a party that will emerge as the single largest party. What remains to be seen is whether it will get a comfortable majority or will it just reach the majority mark, which is 112.
Yeah.
And the BJP is unclear. I think how many seats they will come up with, but definitely not as many as they did last time. JDS, which used to have 37 last time, if it's able to retain those 37 seats, it will be an impressive performance because they are now contesting in a changed election scenario where now they are actually also having to counter the BJP's own campaign to make inroads into
Their territory.
Yeah. So even they have fielded about 30 rebel candidates from the Congress and the BJP as JDS candidates in different parts of North Karnataka.
Okay.
So if they get a few of those, that'll be a plus. That may offset a few that they may lose here.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from political observers across ideological spectrum, I mean, whether they belong to the right, left, or center,
Yes.
that JDS is going to get a hit in their bastions like Mandya, that region. So, what is your sense on that?
They may lose one constituency in Mandya. One. Out of seven.
They won
All seven last time.
Yeah.
But that was an anomaly. They had never won all seven ever.
Okay.
They did that last time because the Congress leader Siddaramaiah came to be seen as an anti-Vokkaliga personality.
Okay.
And the Vokkaligas consolidated behind JDS in a way that they'd never ever done before.
Okay.
And I think that was a one-off. I'm not sure if we'll see the same this year. But like I said, I think a loss here and again there may just
And what is the numbers take on Mandya? Because I almost was going to put out a copy saying that the Mandya region is going to be decisive.
My sense is 5 for sure and 1 a strong chance. 1 loss.
My God, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. That is like keeping, I mean, the traditional, the conventional political punditry is being placed on its head now.
No, we can go constituency by constituency to see why what I said actually makes sense.
Right,
But in Hassan again,
Yeah.
they may retain Hassan but lose Arsikare.
Okay.
Again, their own candidate now is crossed over to the Congress.
Right.
So I think this is what we will see. In Bangalore, they may get 2.
So, what are these projections about the Congress making major gains? Where are they making these gains from?
The Congress's gains, some in the city. Please remember, 13 Congress MLAs moved over to the BJP.
Yeah.
And after having won, and many of them were from Bangalore.
Right.
And they're not returned. So and it looks like the Congress will still be able to get its former share, which means it's done well in Bangalore. And in Coorg, where you had 2 BJP MLAs, Congress is supposed to win both.
Okay.
So that will be a plus. And in the coastal region, where it was reduced to 1, it looks like they may get 4 this time, with a 50-50 chance in 2 others.
Okay.
And in northern Karnataka, especially in the Hyderabad Karnataka region, now renamed Kalyan Karnataka, that won 19 out of 40 last time.
Yeah.
That tally will improve this time.
Okay.
Because Karge and his son, Karge after becoming the party president, there's a renewed sense of energy
Okay.
in their campaigning there.
Yeah.
And I think they've also worked out the candidates in the reserved constituencies there
Yeah.
in a way that analysts tell me, the internal reservation issue, which Chief Minister Bommai said he would implement,
Right.
which was to benefit half of the Dalit population, which had felt that it had not availed of the reservation benefits to the same extent as the right-handed Dalits.
Right.
So they were asking for an internal quota. And many of them are actually quite heavily present in the Hyderabad, Karnataka region.
Okay.
So there was a feeling that the Congress may fare poorly because they will not be with them this time.
Yeah.
But it's not so clear actually. Because I think the Congress has been trying hard to convince them that the quota promise is not really a well worked out promise on paper and it's not legally going to click, etc. But I don't know, that remains to be seen. But the two Lingayat leaders who left BJP to join the Congress, Jagdish Shettar, former chief minister, I believe, and although he made a claim that hurting him has cost BJP at least 30 constituencies, it may not
be that number.
Or it may not even be a single-digit number actually.
Okay.
But what it has ended up doing, I think the Lingayats sort of psyche, the tight association with the party, that has come unstuck.
Okay.
And for this, you can't put an electoral quantified
You cannot fix a number to it.
But if the party were to continue to claim to represent their interests, it's not going to be a very easy thing to do.
Right.
But Savadi's, who was the other deputy CM who moved to Congress and he's in Belgaum, he may affect them in a few constituencies in Belgaum.
Right.
So that will be a few pluses for Congress there.
Right.
So the gains from the Congress will come from across the state actually.
Right. It's not region specific.
It's truly the only pan-Karnataka party we have with a strong base, in which it being the closest second
Fantastic.
figure in most parts.
That's very interesting. The other thing that I wanted to ask you is, that the election actually being fought on economic issues? Is it being fought on price rise? Is it being fought on unemployment? Is it being fought on this corruption charges? This 40% government? Is it being fought on this caste equations as you were trying to mention, or the communal narrative that the BJP is now desperately trying to revive with this Bajrang Bali and in-locks and all that? What is this core issue on which the election is being fought?
There is no core issue. In fact, all the issues you mentioned are all salient in different ways, in different degrees of significance, I would say. Let's begin with the anti-incumbency factor. Yes, the current government, the charges of corruption accumulated into large, it's really stuck. So it's hard for them to shake off the
40% charge.
40% charge. So the other two parties have been saying that bring down the government, they've been too corrupt. And then if you just look at what is the Congress party presenting itself as, it is presenting itself as a party that will ensure peace and harmony between communities. And also good governance. Will give a transparency, will ensure that these kinds of scams don't recur. And the JDS for its part is presenting itself as a regional party and as a farmers party, which understands rural distress in ways that other parties don't. And if you look at the manifesto, it's indeed the case that they've been far more alert to the specificities of the rural difficulty. But having said that, even the Congress will say that we will not let Nandini milk be trampled by Amul.
Right.
And the JD. So this has become a bit of a all of a sudden the Congress trying to find itself a champion of federalism here, and taking up the language plank, taking up other kinds of...
The language plank was always big in Karnataka.
But never electorally.
Okay.
The language plank had evolved outside the political party arena.
Right.
And in fact, one of their complaints to the language activists was no political party cares for this matter. And then in fact tried to...
Rajkumar tried to create a party on language lines most probably.
No, not a party. It is a one-off identification at the time of mass mobilization against the implementation of Sanskrit as a medium of language
Right.
in Karnataka schools, believe it or not. This is done in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And
I followed it. Yeah.
You followed it. So that was the Gokak agitation, where his presence actually lent a kind of a momentum and a energy to the movement.
Right.
Since then, he was a Kannada icon, but never really someone who championed Kannada as a policy matter the way the other activists do.
No, but the outset you said that that you said Congress is the single largest party, and you don't know whether they will get a simple majority or a good majority. So I think the narrative that I've heard in most places across Karnataka, from people who have been speaking on the phone and across North Karnataka and all that, they've all been saying that there's no doubt that the Congress is getting a majority, but with the manifesto and the mention of Bajrang Dal
Yes.
and the campaign that Narendra Modi has now launched, saying that Bajrang
Yeah.
Bali is under lock,
Yes.
they have shot themselves in the foot. What is your take on this?
You're right. I mean, there are two ways of looking at it, right? Was it an important thing to say? I think it was an important thing to say. Was it a wise thing to say at this point in time? I don't think so, because you have ventured into a certain territory that will surely invoke a certain backlash and make you expend energies on things that you would rather not. But that's happened. Now the other question: will it cost them electorally? What that has done, as you could see clearly, is it energized the BJP cadres and maybe even the support base to an extent, which had all been stunned and in a state of low morale, because they're watching all the big leaders being shown the door, and they're unclear about what the grammar of political strategy is in the party when people who have worked for it for decades are simply asked to leave unceremoniously. So there's a lot of ground level disappointment and a kind of
Bajrang Bali by himself may not be able to
Yes.
pull them out.
No, so but this has sort of brought back some energy into the campaign. Now, what will that energy mean in terms of costing the other party's votes is an open question. But from what I can tell, it will not cost either of the two non-BJP parties very much electorally, except maybe in constituencies where the margin of victory for the Congress was slender, and I don't quite know how many there were. In those places, maybe this kind of thing may make for a difference, but
Right.
But none of the leaders themselves are showing any great concern that a campaign that was going in their favor is now
Turned around.
turned around. That kind of worry I don't see in anyone.
Okay. So certainly, Chandan, I'm sure that that given the way you have been following these elections and the expertise that you have on this, I'll have to keep coming back to you.
I'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah. And of course, you have a number. Finally, if I'm asking you straightforward,
Yeah.
do you have a number?
For each of the parties?
Yeah.
I don't actually, and I don't. Because it's difficult. I'll tell you why it's difficult. If you speak to the JDS party campaigners, they will tell you we will cross 50 and don't think we're joking. And anyone else on the other side will not want to put a number above 30.
Okay.
And I don't think either of them are non-serious. And I can't quite tell. I mean, I'm just allowing myself to face surprises on the election day. And this, same for the BJP and the Congress. And as you do know, the last couple of days tend to be decisive in some areas. I think in about 40 constituencies, I think it's an open.
I'll take your word for it because I know how well you follow it and
Oh,
how
thank
well
you.
you and Gauri have, kind of looked at Karnataka from different aspects of society.
Thank you.
How do you think Gauri would have looked at this election?
She would have been delighted. She would have been delighted that the Congress is doing well. She would have been anxious also about the faux pas that they've made. But she would have done all she could through her paper, which is being continued by her younger colleagues. And I think I can see them, doing what she would have done now. But yes, this is definitely, if you were unhappy with the government, I think you have reasons to feel somewhat relieved that this time around we won't, unless the coalition happens the other way around, the BJP-JDS coalition, which again, the probability for me seems a little less certain than the Congress-JDS
JDS
coalition, because H.D. Devegowda is still here, and he for sure will not want that to happen. And he is on good terms with the Congress High Command as well as the BJP High Command, actually. But my intuition is that that won't be allowed to happen, which then opens up the question of, will there be a split, an engineering of a split in the JDS, etc. Again, JDS leaders tell me there is no chance. Tell me who is a faction leader here who can be asked.
Another Operation Lotus.
Another Operation Lotus. The Operation Lotus is now being talked about as a permanent given. If you heard Kharge's own statement from some time back, he said, even if you touch 150, we can't be sure we'll hold on to the government because of Operation Kamala. And even if you're trying to scare the voters into voting the Congress, I still felt that's
little too much.
That's a sign of serious degeneration of the polity.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Chandan.
Thank you.
Okay,
yes.
right. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you.